one feeling, built into every human brain. Remove it, and everything changes. This is what happens next. Think about why you woke up this morning. Maybe you wanted a cup of coffee. Maybe you wanted to see someone you love. Or maybe you just wanted to finish a project you started yesterday. All of those reasons rely on one thing. They rely on the promise of feeling good. Even the smallest sense of satisfaction is a form of happiness. It is the attaboy your brain gives you for being alive. Psychologists call this the reward system. It is the engine that drives everything we do. When you eat a good meal, your brain gives you a small hit of satisfaction. When you solve a difficult problem, you feel a sense of relief and pride. Even a quick smile from a stranger makes something click inside your head. This isn't just a luxury for the lucky ones. It is a survival tool. Our ancestors survived because they felt happy when they found food. They felt happy when they built a warm shelter. That feeling told them that they were doing the right thing. It told them to keep going. Without that reward, the human race would have stayed in the mud. Imagine a world where that engine just stops. The machinery of the brain is still there. You can still think clearly. You can still see the world around you. You can still feel pain, and you can still feel hunger. But the light at the end of the tunnel is gone. In this world, you eat because your stomach hurts. You do not eat because the food tastes good. The flavor of a ripe apple or a hot meal means nothing. It is just fuel to stop the physical ache of starving. You work because you are afraid of losing your home. You do not work because you want to build a career or help people. There is no pride in a job well done. There is no sense of accomplishment when you finish a long task. There is only the removal of a threat. In our world, happiness is the fuel. In this other world, there is no fuel. There is only the constant pressure of staying alive. This change doesn't just make life boring. It makes life nearly impossible. Every piece of music ever written would vanish. Every painting would be meaningless. Every joke would fall flat. We think of happiness as the goal of life. It is why we build cities instead of just small huts. It is why we write laws instead of just fighting each other. If we lose that one feeling, we don't just become sad. Sadness actually requires the memory of joy. To feel sad, you have to know that something better is missing. Without joy, we become something else entirely. We become biological machines. We would still move and we would still breathe. But the reason for doing any of it would be gone. The why of human existence would simply evaporate. Happiness is what makes you care about tomorrow. It is the only reason you plan for the future. If you knew that tomorrow would feel exactly like a blank gray wall, you would stop trying. You would not try to make it better. You would just sit. You would wait for the hunger to start. Then you would move just enough to stop the hunger. Then you would sit again. This is the fundamental problem of a world without joy. It is a world without any momentum. In our history, humans have always pushed forward. We climbed the highest mountains. We crossed the deepest oceans. We even went to the moon. We did those things because we wanted the feeling of winning. We wanted the thrill of discovery. Take that away, and the human story stops on page 1. We are about to see what happens when the most powerful motivator in nature is deleted. It starts with a single person, but it ends with the collapse of everything we call human. Imagine it is a Tuesday morning. The sun comes through the window just like it did yesterday. The alarm goes off at 7 o'clock. In our world, you might groan and reach for your phone. You look for a message from a friend or a funny video to start your day. You do this because your brain is looking for a small spark of joy to get you out of bed. But in this world, that spark is gone. A woman named Sarah wakes up to the sound of her alarm. She feels the floor is cold under her feet. She feels the weight of her blankets. But she does not feel the usual urge to start her day. She doesn't feel like seeing her friends. She doesn't feel like going to the job she used to love. She sits on the edge of her bed for 10 minutes. She is waiting for a reason to move. In her mind, she knows she has to go to work to pay for her house. She knows she needs to eat because her stomach is starting to feel tight and uncomfortable. So, she stands up. She moves slowly, like a machine that is low on oil. She goes to the kitchen and makes a pot of coffee. She drinks it, But she doesn't enjoy the smell. She doesn't enjoy the warmth of the mug in her hands. It is just a liquid that will keep her heart beating and her eyes open. She looks out the window and sees her neighbor. Usually, they wave and smile at each other. It is a small moment that makes them both feel a little bit better. But today, the neighbor is just standing there. He is looking at his car keys. He isn't angry. He isn't crying. He just looks like he is trying to remember why he wanted to go anywhere in the first place. This is the moment the light goes out for everyone. It isn't a natural disaster. It isn't a war. It is a silent shift in the way the human brain processes reality. The part of us that says, "I want," has been replaced by "I must." Sarah walks to her car. She sees a child on the sidewalk who has dropped their ice cream because they lost something that made them happy. But this child is just looking at the puddle on the ground. The child isn't sad because sadness is the shadow of happiness. If you can't feel the high of the treat, you don't feel the low of losing it. The child simply walks away. The ice cream is no longer useful, so it no longer matters. Sarah gets into her car and starts the engine. She notices that the radio is off. She tries to turn it on, but the music sounds like noise. A song that used to make her dance now just sounds like people hitting metal strings. There is no rhythm that makes her want to move. There is no melody that makes her feel nostalgic. She turns it off. The silence in the car feels heavy. As she drives to work, she notices the traffic is different. They are not honking their horns in frustration, but they are also not letting people merge with a friendly wave. Everyone is driving at the exact speed limit. They are all moving toward their destinations because they have to, not because they want to get there. The world has become a giant clock, and every human is just a gear turning. By the time Sarah reaches her office, she realizes something terrifying. The office is quiet. There is no good morning at the door. There is no laughter by the water cooler. Her boss is sitting at his desk, staring at a computer screen. He is typing, but his face is as blank as a stone. He doesn't care if the company succeeds, if he gets a promotion. He is only typing because if he stops, he will lose his paycheck and he will starve. Fear is the only thing left to move the world. Pain is the only thing left to give directions. The promise of a better life has vanished. The day the light goes out is the day we stop being people and start being objects. We are about to see how a society built on wanting falls apart when all we have left is needing. The change hits the economy first. Within 48 hours, the world of business begins to scream. But it is a silent scream. Think about how much money you spend on things you don't actually need to stay alive. The extra shot of flavor in your latte, the new pair of shoes that look better than the old ones, the streaming service you watch on Friday nights. In a world without happiness, all of that spending stops. It doesn't slow down, it stops. The millions of people who work in entertainment and luxury are the first to realize the world has changed. A movie theater owner opens his doors at noon. He has the latest blockbuster ready to play. The popcorn is salted, the seats are clean, but nobody comes. People walk past the theater without looking at the posters. They aren't boycotting the movies, they just don't see the point. Why sit in a dark room for 2 hours to watch images move on a screen if it doesn't make you feel anything? The owner waits for an hour. Then he turns off the projector. He doesn't feel sad about his business failing. He just realizes that keeping the lights on is wasting electricity. He locks the door and walks away. This happens in every mall and every shopping district on Earth. The shops that sell jewelry stay empty. The toy stores become graveyards of plastic. The high-end restaurants realize that nobody wants to pay $50 for a meal when a bowl of plain rice stops the hunger just as well. The stock market doesn't just crash, it evaporates. The value of a company like Apple or Disney is based on the idea that people will want their products in the future. But if want no longer exists, those companies have no value. Investors look at their screens and see the red numbers. They don't panic. Panic is a form of fear mixed with the hope that you can save something you love. Instead, they just close their laptops. Money has lost its meaning because money was always just a ticket to buy a better feeling. By the end of the first week, the internet goes quiet. Social media is the first to die. People used to post photos of their vacations or their dinners to get likes. Those likes gave them a tiny hit of happiness. Without that hit, there is no reason to post. There are no more arguments on the internet because nobody cares enough to be right. There are no more jokes. The endless scroll of the feed finally hits the bottom. The only things left on the web are technical manuals and weather reports. But the biggest change is in the streets. The silence is heavy. In our world, the sound of a city is a mix of people talking and laughing and shouting. Now, the only sound is the mechanical hum of cars and the rhythmic shuffle of feet. People are still moving, but they look like they are walking in their sleep. They go to the grocery store, they buy the cheapest, most efficient calories they can find. They don't look at the packaging. They don't care about the brand. Then something even more dangerous starts to happen. People start to realize they don't need to do their jobs to survive right now. A truck driver delivering medicine might decide to just pull over and sit. He isn't trying to be mean. He just doesn't feel the good feeling of being a helpful member of society. He feels the fatigue in his arms. He feels the boredom of the long road. The only way to get him to keep driving is to threaten him. If the boss says he will be fired and lose his house, he might start the engine again. But he will only do the bare minimum to avoid the pain of being homeless. Efficiency drops to near zero. The complex systems that keep our world running, the power grids, the water treatment plants, the shipping lanes all start to wobble. These systems were built by people who were proud of their work. They were maintained by people who wanted to build a legacy. Now, those systems are being run by people who are just waiting for their shift to end. They don't double-check the dials. They don't fix the small leaks. They don't care if the machine breaks tomorrow as long as it doesn't hurt them today. The immediate consequence of losing happiness isn't a world of gray clouds. It is a world where the glue of caring has dissolved. The human race has stopped leaning forward. We have started to lean back. And when a civilization leans back, it starts to fall. The first month is the month of the great stalling. The engines of progress are cooling down, but as the systems start to fail, a new and darker motivator is about to take over. When the reward of joy is gone, the only thing left to move a human being is the avoidance of pain. Think about an object in your house that you love. Maybe it is a guitar sitting in the corner. Maybe it is a painting you bought on a trip years ago, or maybe it is just a colorful rug on the floor. In our world, these things have value because they change how we feel. The guitar offers the chance to create something beautiful. The painting reminds you of a time when you were relaxed and free. The rug makes the room feel warm and inviting. But in a world without happiness, these objects become pieces of trash. They are clutter. They take up space and they serve no physical purpose. A man walks into his living room. He sees his guitar leaning against the wall. He remembers that he used to spend 3 hours every night practicing. He remembers that his fingers used to move across the strings until they were sore, but he cannot remember why he did it. He tries to pluck a string. The note rings out through the quiet room. It is a perfect, clear sound. In the old world, that sound would have made him feel a tiny sense of peace. Now, it is just a vibration in the air. It is noise. It does not feed him. It does not keep him warm. It does not protect him from danger. He picks up the guitar and carries it outside to the trash. He does not feel sad about letting it go. He just feels a sense of relief that the room is now more efficient. He has more space to walk. There is one less thing to dust. This is the death of everything extra. Within the first month, the human world begins to strip itself down to the bone. Culture is the first thing to be thrown away. Think about the clothes you are wearing right now. You probably chose them because you liked the color. Or maybe they make you feel confident. Or maybe they were a gift from someone who cares about you. In the gray world, fashion disappears overnight. Nobody cares about looking good because looking good is a feeling. Clothing stores that used to sell bright dresses and stylish suits are empty. People start wearing whatever is most durable and most warm. The world becomes a sea of gray and brown and black. Designers and artists lose their jobs because nobody wants what they are making. Why pay extra for a car with a sleek design when a boxy, ugly car gets you to the store just as well? Why paint your house a nice color when white paint is cheaper and reflects the heat better? The beauty of the world was built on the foundation of joy. Without that foundation, everything beautiful starts to crumble. Public parks are no longer maintained. Public parks are no longer maintained. Flowers are pulled up to make room for edible vegetables. The fountains are turned off because wasting water for a pretty sight is seen as a logical error. Then we lose the games. Imagine a stadium that holds 80,000 people. In our world, that stadium is a place of intense emotion. People scream and cry and cheer. They feel a deep sense of belonging when their team wins. Now, the stadium is silent. The athletes are still there, but they are moving like they are in a trance. They don't run fast to win. They don't dive for the ball to save the game. Winning doesn't feel like anything. Losing doesn't hurt. The only reason they are on the field is because it is their job. But as soon as they realize that nobody is watching and nobody is paying them, they stop. They walk off the field. The grass grows long. The lights stay dark. Professional sports, hobbies, and even casual play vanish. Children stop playing in the streets. A child plays because it feels good to explore and imagine. If the imagination doesn't produce a reward, the child simply sits still. They wait for instructions from their parents. This is a world of pure utility. Everything is measured by its use. Is it a tool? Use it. Is it fuel? Consume it. Is it art? Burn it for warmth. We used to think that humans were defined by our creativity. We thought our ability to make music and stories was what made us special. But we were wrong. It was the happiness we felt from those things that made us keep doing them. Without the reward, the creativity dies. The human mind becomes a calculator. It only looks for the shortest path between being hungry and being full. It only looks for the shortest path between being cold and being warm. The world is becoming very efficient, but it is also becoming very small. There is no more. There is only enough. And once we decide that enough is the only goal, we stop looking at the stars. We stop asking what if. We just look at our feet and keep walking. But there is one more thing that starts to break. Something much more important than art or sports. It is the way we look at each other. When we lose the ability to feel happy, we lose the ability to care about the people standing right in front of us. Think about the last time you hugged someone you love. Think about that warm feeling in your chest when you see a close friend after a long time. Or even the simple comfort of sitting in a room with someone and saying nothing at all. You do these things because your brain rewards you for being social. Evolution designed us to feel good when we are around other humans. It is a survival trick. Being in a group is safer than being alone. So, your brain makes togetherness feel like happiness. But in this gray world, that trick stops working. The chemical reward for human connection is gone. Suddenly, other people are not sources of joy. They are just other moving objects in the room. Imagine a husband and a wife sitting at a dinner table. In our world, they might talk about their day. They might share a joke or a look of understanding. They stay together because they like the way the other person makes them feel. But in this new reality, they sit in total silence. They are not angry at each other. They just have nothing to say. The husband looks at his wife and sees a person who helps pay the rent. The wife looks her husband and sees a person who helps carry the heavy groceries. Their relationship has become a business contract. They stay in the same house because it is cheaper than living in two houses. They share a bed because it keeps them warmer at night. But there is no us. There is only me and you. The idea of a soulmate becomes a joke that nobody remembers how to tell. This change is even more chilling when you look at parents and their children. We like to think that a mother's love is the strongest force in nature. And it is. But a huge part of that love is the reward. In our world, when a mother sees her baby smile, her brain lights up like a firework. That feeling makes her want to protect the baby. It makes her willing to lose sleep and work hard to keep the child safe. In the gray world, the baby still cries. The baby still needs to be fed and changed. But when the baby smiles, the mother feels nothing. She sees the smile, but it is just a muscle movement on a small face. She still feeds the child because she knows that if she doesn't, the child will die. She doesn't want the child to die because that would be a waste of resources. But there is no warmth in the way she holds the baby. There is no singing. There are no bedtime stories. Raising a child becomes a long, difficult task with no emotional payoff. As a result, the birth rate begins to plummet. In our world, people have children because they want to share their lives and feel the joy of a family. In a world without joy, a a child is just a massive amount of work for no reward. The logical choice for most people is to simply stop having them. Humanity begins to shrink. Friendship is the next thing to disappear. Think about your friends. You probably spend time with them because they make you laugh or they listen to your problems. But if talking to a friend doesn't make you feel better, why do it? Why listen to someone else's problems if you don't feel the good feeling of being helpful? Within a few months, people stop calling each other. The bars and coffee shops where people used to meet stay empty. The social fabric of the world doesn't just tear, it unspools. We become a planet of billions of people who are all completely alone. We might live in the same cities, but we are like ghosts passing each other. If you saw someone trip and fall on the sidewalk, you wouldn't feel bad for them. Empathy is tied to the ability to feel another person's pain and joy. If you can't feel joy, you lose the baseline for caring about anyone else. You might help them up, but only if you think they might owe you a favor later. Everything becomes transactional. I will help you fix your car if you give me some of your food. There is no kindness. There is only the exchange of services. This is the end of the village. And without the village, the individual starts to break down. Humans were never meant to be solitary animals. But without the reward of happiness, we have no reason to be anything else. The world is becoming a very quiet place. But the silence is about to be filled with something else. Because while happiness is gone, the other side of the human brain is still very much alive. The part that feels fear. And when fear is the only thing left to guide us, the world becomes a very dangerous place to live. Think about the word ambition. We usually think of it as a personality trait. We think it is something that some people have and others do not. But ambition is actually just a calculation. It is your brain looking at a difficult task and saying the work is worth the effort. It is worth the effort because the reward will feel great. In the gray world, that calculation always equals zero. Ambition is the hunger for future happiness. If you don't have that hunger, you don't hunt for new ideas. This is the part of the story where the human race stops moving forward. Think about a scientist in a laboratory. In our world, this scientist might spend 10 years trying to find a cure for a disease. They spend thousands of hours failing. They stay up late reading papers and looking at slides. They do this because they can imagine the moment they succeed. They can imagine the pride they will feel. They can imagine the relief of saving millions of lives. That imaginary feeling of happiness is what keeps them in the lab key. Things are hard. Now, look at the scientist in the world without joy. She is still smart. She still knows how to use the equipment. But when she looks at the disease, she doesn't feel the pull of the cure. She doesn't feel the excitement of a new theory. If an experiment fails, she doesn't feel frustrated. But if an experiment succeeds, she doesn't feel a rush of victory. The discovery is just a piece of data on a screen. It is just a fact. And because it is just a fact, she leaves not feel like staying late to find the next one. She leaves at 5 o'clock. She does not think about the work she goes home. The drive to push the boundaries of what we know simply disappears. This happens in every field at the same time. Engineers stop trying to build faster planes or better computers. The current ones work well enough to keep us alive. Why spend billions of dollars in years of work to make a computer 1 second faster? If that extra second of speed doesn't make anyone feel more satisfied, nola, a waste of thorion. Progress is expensive. It requires people to do things that are uncomfortable and difficult. Humans only choose the difficult path. There is a win at the end of Noah. Without the win, we always choose the easiest path. This is why the gray world starts to look like a world that is frozen in time. The cities don't get taller, the cars don't get safer, the technology doesn't get smarter. In fact, things start to go backward. Maintaining complex technology is hard work. It requires a high level of care and attention to detail. But kerla, a form of passion. And passion is a form of happiness. The engineers stop caring, the machines start to break. A bridge starts to rust. Nobody notices nobody is looking for the pride of a perfect city. They just fix the holes when the cars can't get across anymore. They do the bare minimum to keep the system from collapsing. This is the end of the space age, too. In our world, we look at the stars and we feel wonder. We feel a deep, burning curiosity to know what is out there. We spent trillions of dollars to put footprints on the moon. There was no physical reason to go there. There was no food on the moon. There was no air. We went boy, it made us feel like giants. In the gray world, the moonla just a rock. It is a useless, cold rock that costs too much to visit. The rockets are left to rot in their hangars. The satellites that fall out of orbit are not replaced. True key. They are needed for basic survival. The human species stops looking up. We stop looking at the horizon. We only look at what is right in front of us. We become like an old clock that lies slowly winding down. The gears are still turning. The spring has lost its tension. We used to think that humans were naturally curious, but we are learning that curiosity just the search for the spark. Without the spark, the fire of civilization goes out. We are left in a world that functional. Dead. There is no more better. There is only today. And as the years pass, today starts to get a little bit worse every day. You stop trying to grow. You don't just stay the same. You start to decay. And as the world decays, we face the biggest problem of all. If life hard and there no reward for fixing why should we even try to solve the world's problems? Why should we try to save the planet or help the poor? The logic of the gray world about to lead us to a very dark place. Imagine a forest fire. In our world, when we see a forest burning, we feel a sense of loss. We see the smoke on the horizon, and we feel a tight knot in our chest. We think about the animals losing their homes. We think about the beauty of the trees being turned to ash. Because of that feeling, we act. Thousands of people sign up to be firefighters. People donate money to plant new trees. They do this because helping feels good. The act of protecting something beautiful gives us a sense of purpose and a hit of satisfaction. But in the gray world, the fire is just a chemical reaction. A man stands on a hill and watches the flames tear through a valley. He sees the smoke rising into the sky. He knows that the fire is destroying the environment. He knows that it might eventually reach his own house. But he doesn't feel the pull to stop it. He doesn't feel the warmth of compassion for the animals. He doesn't feel the pride of being a protector. He looks at the fire and performs a cold calculation. Is the fire touching my skin right now? No. Is the smoke making it hard for me to breathe right now? No. Then there is no logical reason for me to move. He turns around and walks back to his house. The forest burns until there is nothing left to burn. This is why we stop trying to fix the world. In our world, morality is often driven by how we feel. We feed the hungry because we feel their pain, and helping them makes that pain go away. We call this empathy. But empathy is just a bridge that carries feelings from one person to another. If there is no good feeling on the other side of that bridge, the bridge is useless. In the gray world, a person in a rich country sees a photo of a starving child in a poor country. They see the ribs sticking out. They see the sadness in the child's eyes. In our world, that photo makes people reach for their wallets. It makes them want to change the system. In the gray world, the person looks at the photo and sees a fact. The fact is that the child is starving. But because the observer cannot feel the reward of being kind, they do nothing. They don't feel guilty, because guilt is the shadow of happiness. They don't feel mean, because being mean is a choice made out of anger or joy. They just feel nothing. They move on to the next task. Charity disappears from the earth in a single generation. The organizations that used to fight for human rights or animal welfare close their doors. They cannot find any volunteers. They cannot find any donors. The world becomes a place where the strong do not help the weak. It is not because the strong are cruel. It is because the weak have nothing to offer in exchange. Think about the environment. We are trying to save the planet right now because we want a better future for our children. We want them to see the ocean and feel the same wonder we feel. We want them to breathe clean air and be happy. In the gray world, the future has no value. If a child in 50 years will not be able to feel happy anyway, why save the trees for them today? Why spend trillions of dollars to stop the climate from changing? The humans of the gray world decide to use every resource as fast as possible. They burn the coal, they cut the forests, they pollute the water, They do this because it is the most efficient way to stay warm and fed right now. They are not worried about tomorrow because tomorrow is just another blank, gray day. Justice also starts to fail. In our world, we want a fair society because it feels right. We feel a sense of peace when a criminal is caught or when a wrong is made right. But in this world, right and wrong are replaced by useful and useless. If a person steals from a store, the owner only cares if the loss makes his life harder. If a government is corrupt, the people only care if the corruption takes their food. There are no protests for freedom. There are no marches for equality. Freedom and equality are ideas that are meant to lead to happiness. If the destination doesn't exist, nobody wants to walk the path. The human race has stopped being a community. We have become a collection of individuals who are all just trying to avoid pain. The world is still turning, but the heart of it has stopped beating. We are entering the century of the great neglect. But as the world falls apart, the people inside it are changing too. They are reaching a point where they are starting to ask a very dangerous question. If life is just a series of tasks to avoid pain, and there is no joy at the end of it, why keep doing the tasks? 80 years have passed. The generation that knew what a smile meant is dead. There are no stories about the old world. Those stories were stories of feelings. If you tell a child in this world about joy, they won't understand. It is like trying to explain the color red to someone who was born blind. They hear the word. They know it is a concept, but it has no weight. The world looks different now. Look at the cities. In our world, cities are built with glass and lights. They are built to impress. They are built to make you feel like you are part of something big and exciting. In the gray century, the cities are made of plain concrete. Every building is the same shape. A square is the most efficient way to use space. A square is easy to heat. A square is easy to clean. There are no neon signs. There are no advertisements. In our world, an advertisement tries to make you feel like your life will be better if you buy a certain car or a certain drink. But since nobody can feel better, the ads stopped working decades ago. The only signs on the streets are for directions. Food here, hospital there, water this way. The population is much smaller now. In the old world, the global population was 8 billion people. Now, it is closer to 3 billion. And it is dropping every year. This is not because of a plague. It is not because of a war. It is because of the math of the mind. If you do not feel the pull of a family, you do not start one. If you do not feel the warmth of holding a child, you do not have one. Having a baby is now treated like a government job. Some people are assigned to do it so the species does not go extinct this century. But there is no excitement about it. There are no baby showers. There are no celebrations. The schools are quiet too. Think about a classroom in our world. You see posters on the walls. You hear kids laughing during recess. You see teachers trying to inspire their students. In the gray century, the classroom is just a room for data transfer. Students learn how to fix the power grid. They learn how to grow food in indoor tanks. They learn how to calculate the most efficient use of calories. They do not learn history. Most of human history was driven by kings wanting more power, or artists wanting more beauty, or explorers wanting more glory. All of those motivations are gone. To the students of the gray century, the people of the past look like they were insane. Why would anyone fight a war over a flag? Why would anyone spend 10 years painting the ceiling of a church? It does not make sense. It is seen as a waste of energy. People still work, but only enough to get by. Most people work 20 hours a week. They do their task, they get their credits, they buy their food, then they go home and sit in the dark. They do not watch movies, they do not read novels, they just wait for their bodies to tell them it is time to sleep. This is the stable state. For the first time in history, the human race is not at war. There is no crime. Why would you steal someone's phone if you do not feel a rush of pleasure from owning it? There is no murder. Why would you kill someone if you do not feel the heat of anger? The world is perfectly peaceful, but it is the peace of a graveyard. We have achieved the perfect society. There is no poverty because everyone is given exactly what they need to survive. There is no pollution because we only build what is necessary. But there is also no life. If you walk down a street in this world, you would see thousands of people. They are healthy, they are well fed, but their eyes are empty. They are not looking at the sky. They are not looking at each other. They are just existing. They are waiting for the clock to run out. And the clock is running out. Without the drive to progress, we are losing the battle against nature. The machines we use are starting to fail. We do not have enough people with the spark of genius to invent new ones. We are living off the leftovers of the people who used to be happy. We are entering the final stage of the human story. We are not going to end with a bang. We are going to end with a sigh. Because the ultimate question of the gray century is starting to be answered. If you do not have a reason to want tomorrow, eventually you just stop asking for it. 1,000 years have passed since the last human felt a spark of joy. The great cities are gone. They were too big to maintain without a reason. They were too complex for a species that only does the bare minimum to survive. The skyscrapers did not fall because of a war or an earthquake. They fell because nobody felt like fixing a leaky roof or a cracked foundation. When a building became dangerous, the people simply moved to a smaller one. They kept moving into smaller and smaller spaces until the cities were reclaimed by the dirt. Humans now live in small, concrete structures. These buildings are not beautiful. They are not meant to last for centuries. They are just shelters that keep the rain off and the heat in. There are no gardens. There are no statues. There is nothing to suggest that the people living here have any history at all. The human record has vanished. In our world, we preserve our history because we are proud of it. We save books and digital files because we want future generations to know who we were. In the gray world, history is a waste of space. The digital libraries failed when the power grids became too hard to manage. The books were used as fuel to keep the houses warm during the winter. Nobody felt bad about burning a Shakespeare play or a history of the moon landing. To them, it was just paper that produced heat. Language itself has changed. It has shrunk to almost nothing. In our world, we have thousands of words to describe how we feel. We have words for longing and ecstasy and hope. In this world, those words are gone. They were deleted from the language because they had no meaning. A mother does not tell her child she loves them. She tells the child that the food is ready. A man does not tell his friend he missed him. He tells him that the harvest is finished. Communication is now purely factual. The sentences are short. The voices are flat. People speak only when they need to coordinate a task. The rest of the time, there is only silence. It is a silence that would drive a person from our world insane. But to the people of the 1,000th year, it is normal. They do not know that anything is missing. The population has dropped to almost nothing. There are perhaps only a few 100,000 humans left on the entire planet. They are scattered in small groups near water and fertile soil. They do not trade with each other. They do not travel. The idea of exploring the world is dead. If you know that the next valley looks exactly like yours, why walk there? If you know that the people there will be just as blank as you are, why meet them? Humanity has become a solitary species. We have returned to a state that is lower than the animals. Even dogs feel a sense of play. Even birds sing to attract a mate. But the humans of the long shadow do not play and they do not sing. They are the only creatures on Earth that have lost their instinct for joy. And because they have lost that instinct, they have lost their will to continue. The birth rate is now below the replacement level in every single group. In our world, we fight to save our species. We worry about the end of the world. In the gray world, the end of the world is not a tragedy. It is just a slow, quiet exit. A group of 50 people becomes 40, then it becomes 20. Then the last 2 people simply sit in their shelter and wait for the end. They do not cry because they do not know what they are losing. This is the long shadow of the experiment. It shows us that happiness was never just a bonus for being alive. It was the heartbeat of our species. It was the only thing that kept us from being swallowed by the cold logic of the universe. We used to think that we were the masters of the world because of our big brains. But our brains were only tools. Happiness was the hand that held the tool. Without the hand, the tool just sits on the ground and rusts. The story of humanity is almost over. The final few pages are being written in the dust of a world that stopped caring a long time ago. But before the last light goes out, we have to look back. We have to understand what this experiment teaches us about the lives we are living right now. Because we still have the spark, and we need to know why we should never let it go. We spend a lot of our time trying to find happiness. We treat it like a goal we have to reach at the end of a long road. We think that once we get the right job or the right house, we will finally be happy. But this journey through the gray world shows us something very different. Happiness is not the destination. It is the fuel for the car. It is the thing that makes the journey possible in the first place. If you take it away, the car does not just sit there. It falls apart. Think about the first lesson of the gray world. Happiness is the foundation of all human purpose. In our world, we often feel tired or bored with our tasks. But underneath that boredom is the belief that finishing the task will lead to something better. It might be a paycheck that lets you buy a nice meal. It might be the pride of solving a problem. That tiny drop of satisfaction is the only reason we do anything difficult. Without it, purpose dies. And when purpose dies, the human species stops moving. The second lesson is about the people around you. We like to think that our society is held together by laws and contracts. We think we stay together because it is the logical thing to do. But logic is not strong enough to hold a family together for 70 years. Logic is not strong enough to make a mother stay up all night with a sick child. Only the emotional reward of love and joy can do that. Relationships are not business deals. They are built on the spark of connection. Without that spark, we are all just strangers living in the same room. The third lesson is about the future. We are the only species that plans for things that haven't happened yet. We build for a tomorrow we might never see. We do this because we can imagine the joy of the people who will live after us. We want our children to be happy. We want the world to be a more beautiful place. In the gray century, the future has no value. If there is no joy tomorrow, there is no reason to protect today. Hope is just happiness that hasn't happened yet. If you kill happiness, you kill hope along with it. The fourth lesson is about the things we call extra. We think of art and music and stories as luxuries. We think we can live without them if things get hard. But look at what happened in the gray world. When the music stopped, the heart of the species stopped. Art is not just a decoration on a wall. It is the way we communicate the value of being alive. It is the way we tell each other that life is more than just breathing and eating. Beauty is a necessity for a mind that wants to grow. The final lesson is the most important one of all. The spark of joy is what makes us human. It is a small, fragile thing. It can be broken by tragedy or lost in the stress of daily life. But it is the most powerful force in the known universe. It is the only thing that can turn a collection of cells into a person. It is the only thing that can turn a group of individuals into a civilization. It is the reason we went to the moon. It is the reason you are listening to this right now. We often complain about our lives. We focus on the stress and the pain and the things we do not have. But we forget that we have the one thing that the people of the gray world would give everything for. We have the ability to feel a moment of peace. We have the ability to laugh at a joke. We have the ability to feel the warmth of a hand holding ours. These are not small things. They are the greatest treasures we possess. So, look at the world around you today. Notice the colors that don't need to be there. Listen to the sounds that serve no purpose other than to be beautiful. Smile at someone, even if you don't have a reason. Do it because you can. Do it because you are one of the lucky ones who still has the spark. The story of the gray world is a warning. It tells us that a life without joy is not a life at all. It is just a slow way of waiting to die. Keep the fire burning. Protect the things that make you feel alive. Because as long as there is even one person who can feel a spark of happiness, the human story is not over. We are still moving, we are still reaching, and as long as we can feel, we are still here. This is a hypothetical scenario based on the historical record and human behavior. Real outcomes would depend on factors no model can predict.